I want to bring in Lauren Skinner Buksevics. She is the managing director of Painted Rock Estate Winery, and we've reached her today in Whistler, BC. Thanks again for making time for us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so let's first start with these 50% tariffs that have come into effect, and that was over the course of the weekend. What does it mean for your business?
It means, unfortunately, our partner in the U.S. is not going to be able to continue importing our wines. It's not a large volume, but it's really important for building the brand of Canadian wine and our brand of Painted Rock, of course. And it's something that enables us to do business internationally just based on the reputation of certain reviewers and publications, et cetera, in the U.S. And it allows us to maintain relationships with customers that come and visit us and see us in the tasting room and then want to buy the wines in the U.S.
And what do you make of the countermeasures that are set to go into effect September 8th?
I'm a proud Canadian, and I think, the governments are doing what they think is best for us. And I support a Team Canada approach. And, it's unfortunate, and it's going to have impacts on our business. But I think it really boils down to an opportunity for our governments to look inside Canada with a holistic approach as to how we can make business easier for Canadians and Canadian businesses at home.
So when we do talk about what's happening here at home, we know that we've been discussing that the minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade, who's also talking about internal trade and responsible for that, will be meeting with provincial and territorial counterparts to discuss that challenge and that barrier. A lot of businesses coming forward saying, hey, the trade war with the U.S. is a big deal, but let's also look at what's happening inside. What challenges do you face when it comes to domestic trade?
Right now there's been a discussion around opening trade barriers between the provinces for what's called direct-to-consumer wine sales. So that's me as a winery selling to a consumer in Ontario who goes online and wants to purchase the wine. And I'm grateful for the progress. It's still an agreement to have an agreement for frameworks. And at this point, the frustration for me as a small business is every province is looking at something different. Some are wanting to include their own version of a tariff between the provinces. Some are looking for a cleaner approach, but it's still just direct to consumer. We're not, enabling us to build the Canadian wine brand by giving us access to selling to Canadian businesses. I understand that there's monopolies, like the LCBO and the BC Liquor and other provincial monopolies that are run by the governments. And setting that aside for a minute, but even the ability to sell wine to restaurants across Canada, the ability for me to sell wine to private retailers that are looking to champion Canadian products. They're Canadian businesses that want to put Canada first, and the tariffs and the taxes between our own provinces are making it impossible for us to do business and for them to do business. And I really think there's an opportunity there.
In terms of any specific measures that are particularly challenging when it comes to your business, what are some that you are focusing on and you hope perhaps is something that comes up or is tackled during the course of those discussions set to take place between the federal and provincial governments in the next few days?
There's a few. So right now there's something that's called the Wine Sector Support Program, which was put in place to alleviate the excise taxes that we were once exempt from and now no longer are. It's not been renewed, and it's something that's incredibly impactful. I listened to what Doug Ford was just saying, and he had a great point. When you put money back into businesses, they spend it, they invest. And that's money that we can't invest right now. So I'm hoping that first and foremost, the Wine Sector Support Program, a misnomer, I should say. It's not actually a support program. It's just a rebalancing of taxes. I hope that is corrected. And I hope that the provinces, someone is bold enough to go, this is time to put an end to this back and forth and the little bits here, little bits there. Let's stop negotiating between provinces to add more complexity to Canadian businesses. Let's have a holistic approach that really evens the playing field and opens up opportunity for Canadians.
When we talk about cost, how much more costly is it for you right now to have BC wines go across the country versus vertically, north-south?
Oh, right now. So, when I sell wine to our U.S. distributor, I do so at my BC wholesale price. So, that's at a certain amount of discount, usually somewhere around a 20% discount. If I was to get my wines on the shelf in the LCBO, in order to have them appear to Canadians as the same prices they're being sold in BC at our BC Liquor Board, I would have to give over a 50% discount to be able to make that sale. And it's uneconomic. There's no way that I can do it. We're a small business. We make 6,500 cases a year. To get the price point that Canadians deserve, which is equal pricing across Canada, it's such a hit on our business that it makes it impossible. So really, that's what I'm looking for, whether it comes in the form of a national VQA program, which is how right now we're able to sell within the BC liquor stores, is we have a VQA rebate because we are grown and produced in BC. Again, it comes back to this approach where we've always been looking at each other as BC wine versus Ontario wine versus Nova Scotia wine. I want all layers of government to sit back and go, we are Canadians at first and foremost. This is Canadian wine. This is Canadian beer, Canadian distillers. I speak to wine, but really I want it to be a broader conversation. And I want business to be able to do business and, again, earn that money and put it back and reinvest it in Canada.
Did at all your business work or benefit at all from American booze getting taken off the shelves?
I mean, absolutely. The pride that Canadians have is reinforced in every purchasing decision that they've made in the last 16 months since all of this came into effect, and before that, the conversations around Canadian sovereignty really did solidify and unify Canadians, and we need policy to follow that. There's really a moment right now where Canadians are asking, almost demanding, access to Canadian products, and I want policy to follow that incentivizes all layers of government to really give Canadians what they're asking for.
Lauren, I want to thank you so much for joining us and for your perspective. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
That is Lauren Skinner Buksevics, and she is the Managing Director of Painted Rock Estate Winery. Thanks.
Thank you.